Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Always Online Multiplayer Gaming Podcast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play, multiplayer related. It's been over a year, and I still occasionally do it. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. magicman, as I am every week, and we've got every company under the damn sun doing a new MMORPG. Some coming, some going. We're going to go through all of it. We're going to talk a little bit of Dual Universe, and then we're going to go through some miscellaneous oddball news before we cap it all off with your weekly bombs and your question of the week answers. Make sure on this episode you get those into the comments. Vital, important part of the show. And while you're there, if you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is, we appreciate it. Click like, click subscribe, turn on those notifications. You know how to feed those algorithms. You do whatever you want on Twitter. I mean, you might be able to get our stuff on Twitter, but, like, who knows what the hell's going on with that. Joining me today to go over all the fun stuff, Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Man, watching Twitter is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like the freakouts and everything else. I had to explain to somebody this morning, like, look, it's not just going to shut off overnight because bad things are happening. It's just going to keep going and going, and things are going to keep breaking and getting worse and worse, and people are going to start splintering off to other places until it finally, possibly years down the road, becomes a ghost town and somebody shuts off the lights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think you're probably pretty accurate. It's far more likely to just, like, stop working than it is to just go anywhere. I mean, Elon apparently sent out an email to everybody this morning saying, you know, if you know how to code, meet in the office room at 2 or whatever. Like, legitimately sent that out and wanted, like, samples of any salient code that they had done. Like, maybe you should have done this before you let people go.
Well, the thing is, though, is he let people go.
Yep.
And then he told the people that were left, if, you know, anybody who wants to stay has to be willing to work even harder and whatever. And you have to let me know before this point.
Yeah.
That, and everybody went, So that...
quote unquote hardcore was the term he used. It was like, I don't want anything to do with Twitter hardcore. I just don't.
But the funniest thing about it is the email that they sent out letting people go. Like, it wasn't, you know, the greeting was literally just, hi.
Yeah. Yep. Sup, dog. Sup, dog. You don't work here anymore. Also on the line, Mr. Troy Blackburn, the noob fridge. What's up?
Trying to figure out what I'm going to plug once Twitter dies.
Your OnlyFans, of course.
Oh, yeah, naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed you're not plugging it already. Jason, that's why he left. He didn't want to be part of MMOBomb hardcore. Damn that Elon burn. Ooh, no, I would have polled everybody to find what I needed before I let everybody go. You know, sending that follow-up of, hey, would you come back is a little embarrassing. So I'd try to avoid that one. Let's get started, gang, with some news. We have got quite a few MMOs/MMORPGs on the horizon. And by horizon, by the way, I mean like the next few years. But it seems like over the last week and a half, we've gotten a bunch announced or teased or given trailers. We didn't do the show last week. Troy woke up to no power. Of course, there will be no show next week, it being Thanksgiving weekend. So spend some time with your friends and family. And then come hang out the following week. But hey, that dog loves some MMOs. That's what's going on. Is that one of your big dogs, Troy?
That's
my housemate's dog.
That's not me. That was way too big for my dogs.
I thought she was going to say that's my house. Like, it's most house creaks, Q's barks.
So this dog... we found out past our fence, and it was injured, and she brought it in, took it to the vet, has spent a ton of money on it. It hates her kid. It absolutely hates her kid.
Nice.
But it's just, you think he was loud there, you should hear it when the kid comes home.
We've got a bunch coming and going. Now, Blue Protocol, let's start there, gang. I mean, that is has been a highly anticipated MMO that nobody knew anything about. Like you saw some videos, there were a few overseas different tests and things, but it was like, is this coming west? They're hiring, Bandai Namco's hiring localization people. So at one point that kind of, indicated that there would be a global or a Western release of some type, and then we'd get a little more information that kind of leaned that way, but Bandai stayed away from like huge confirmations of anything. And then all of a sudden, about a week and a half ago, beep boop, their Twitter became active again. And basically, Q, I think the first one was probably the best, where they were just like, hey, we're not dead. Like, we're not dead. We're still working on the game. We'll have more information next week during their streaming thing. I do love the fact that the Twitter Translate calls their stream the Bull Pro communication, not Blue Protocol communication stream. So a little bit of lost in translation there. I do like that. So they did tease that, saying, hey, we're going to have more information. We're going to have a network test. We'll follow up. And then they did, in fact, follow up with that stream, showed off a ton of gameplay, a ton of video. And then, they're doing their network test. And it's scheduled for release next year. All kinds of just good Blue Protocol news, but not the confirmation of a global release. More things indicate it's probably going to go global. I think it will, but still don't have that confirmation. Is this one you're looking forward to, Q? You like Genshin Impact, that type of art aesthetic, that kind of gameplay. This skews obviously a little more towards the MMORPG side of things than Genshin Impact does, as far as partying up, dungeons, raids, world bosses, that type of thing. Are you looking forward to Blue Protocol?
I haven't really thought about it much, just simply because, one, like you said, they basically told us a week ago that they're not dead.
Yeah.
And two, there hasn't been any confirmation that they're coming to the West. And I'm just past that point in my life where I'm going to put in major effort to get in a game in another region.
Yeah.
So I just
the
really
Japanese release is the one I'm talking about for next year in spring. It's the Japanese launch is spring of next year.
So it's and between that and having Genshin Impact to play and XIV and already having a hard enough time balancing those two things, I don't know if I want to add another one to the list.
You can try to get in on this network test if you happen to live in Japan. And I know Aspen is super excited about Blue Protocol and, in fact, lives in Japan and has a Bandai Namco ID. Obviously, there are ways around some of that stuff. So if you want to try and get in, you can. Signups are live now. They'll be taking signups up until December 13th. Then the actual network test will be January 14th through the 16th. But they're limiting this to about 50,000 participants, and if you get in, you'll get a friend code to bring somebody else and play along with you. I think one of the other things, Troy, that really indicated, this is we're going to be looking more at a global release, is that not only did they release a new trailer, but they also said we're going to have another new trailer at the Game Awards 2022 on December 8th. And that's kind of a totally different marketing crowd when you put something up in front of everybody at the Game Awards. That is a global audience.
Yeah, that's a global audience, and it's specifically a Western audience. But yeah, more of a global audience for sure. So surely you're going to show something beyond just a Japanese release at that point at those Game Awards. You're going to be looking to appeal to that audience itself. Why else would you spend the resources to make that happen?
You looking forward to this? Is it something I don't know how big you are with like the anime aesthetic and stuff like that.
Yeah, the anime aesthetic doesn't usually do it for me, but this one here, the combat and stuff, I'm sitting there watching the trailer right now, and everything looks fluid and smooth. It looks hella fun. It's just a matter if it's coming here, and I'll be after the first few days or weeks, and some of the reviews come out and say, yeah, it's good. It doesn't have monetization issues. Then it's something that I might play here and there. It's not going to be my next MMO or anything.
I'm really looking forward to it. I am a little nervous. I mean, Bandai Namco, obviously I love like the Tales series and stuff like this, so the art style is right up my alley. I do like the more action-oriented nature of the combat, as from everything we've seen in videos and some playing that other people and other sites were able to do, like last year or a year and a half or so ago. Yeah, you're never going to pull Troy away from New World. Jason in chat. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hopeful Bandai doesn't screw up monetization. I anticipate, like some type of gotcha thing, which, I'm not generally a fan of. I don't really participate. But yeah, I'm kind of giving it like my eye right now. You got my eye. And it's nice to know that the game's not dead, because there was that rumor for a long time now. I was never subscribed to that rumor. But there were many that were like, that's dead, that's dead, that's dead. So it will be fun. We'll take a peek. Here's a rumor for you, gang. A rumor of an MMORPG. And I want to see if you think it's got legs. The rumor is Sony is looking to produce an MMORPG based on the Horizon IP. So in the Horizon universe, Horizon Zero Dawn, that game, Alloy and Aloy, whatever you call her. I don't care. This is coming translated via Video Game Chronicles from a South Korean news site, MTN, that says Sony is looking to come together on what is called Project H. They're in the process of hiring to work on the game. And the speculation, again, none of this is confirmed by Sony or anybody yet, is that this will be an MMORPG in the Horizon universe. The partner, and this is where they might lose some people, Troy. This is where they might lose some people. The partner is NCSoft.
Yeah, unfortunately, to me, my number one concern would be this plays out more like a live service than an MMO. Yeah, it's multiplayer. Yeah, there's lots of people can play together, but something like Sony and NCSoft go more live service route. And as Gloria said in chat, also concern number 2, PlayStation exclusive? Question mark.
Well, you do have Sony previously saying, right, that they do want to do more live service games. And then they expanded on that in another interview queue where they were talking about PlayStation exclusive titles coming to PC and how, generally speaking, it was going to be at least a year for those exclusive titles to migrate from console to PC. They wanted to suck up a year or so of console sales first. But they did note in that interview their exception being live service games. Those types of games, and I agree with them, if you're going to launch them, you want them on both platforms on day one to hit both of those audience. So there is a specific call out in some Sony interviews that if they are doing something like this, seem to indicate they would want it on more than just the PlayStation on day one, falling into that live service bucket.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The live services or straight up MMOs and stuff like that, when you divide it like that, it puts this, if the intention is to eventually have everybody playing together, it basically handicaps the other group, right?
Right.
So you have this whole group of players that they're either behind financially, or there's content, suddenly that like they can't do because everybody else is so far ahead of them, or whatever it is. So it's really much more ideal to launch it together. That's not to say, obviously, you don't have new people coming into games and stuff all the time, but I do feel like handicapping one entire section of your community is a problem, unless you just literally intend to only have those people play together and not play with anybody else. But that's not the way it works anymore.
Yeah, I'm totally down for this. I think having enjoyed the Horizon games myself, I think the world, even if you don't necessarily go with the same timing of the Horizon games or some of those narrative beats, you kind of just say, hey, this takes place in the universe 50 years before, 100 years after the events of Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever. that world, I think, definitely lends itself to an MMO, right, Troy? It's kind of like, this is the world we live in now. What's happening with just the regular people? And here, you're a regular person. You aren't this dedicated narrative beat, story-driven character. Go and do your thing in this world. I kind of like it. NCSoft scares the hell out of me with it as far as the monetization goes. Sony isn't exactly much better when it comes to monetizing things out of the gate sometimes, so definitely a concern there, whether they go box fee, sub, free to play with a horrendous cash shop, or who knows. I hope this is true, but I'm also worried that it totally screws up a really, really good IP, and we've seen that happen before, where some type of live service, Marvel's Avengers, smacks around a really, really good IP.
Especially a setting like you said that would make such a great MMO if they would do a true MMO and really treat it the way it should be treated. It'd be a shame to see that get smacked around and turned into a live service, just the old crappy live service stuff.
I'm interested. Troy, I guess, you've never played a Horizon game, have you?
No.
Console baby. Q, have you?
No.
Oh, they are good. I'll give them that. Arctic Theory, a company run by some CCP of EVE Online fame and Electronic Arts veterans, are working on a new ambitious MMO themselves, set to release now in 2023. They've secured $2 million in funding from an initial seed round early this year, and now they're talking about taking on a prospective publishing partner now. Codenamed Annex, the game takes place in a persistent, single-shared world where nature has taken over the remnants of a long-vanished civilization. By searching for resources, building infrastructure, and solving logistical challenges, players will alter the landscape of Annex, creating everything from lone outposts, trade networks, and settlements to large-scale, democratically run cities. So this is one of those, not so MMORPG, but MMO-ish, where you're, out in the wilderness, surviving, building factories, a new settlement, and it's the player base kind of creating the content. So they specifically, Troy, stayed away from the word sandbox, but it was had all the traits of a sandbox MMO.
It comes across as a very naked world, doesn't it? Like you're going to be building and creating and solving all these problems and scanning for resources and stuff. So yeah, it screams like naked sandbox world. You make your own fun kind of deal.
Those, I know you love them. It just doesn't do it for me. I find them interesting for a couple of hours, and then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to sit here and play this, but it's interesting tech-wise or systems-wise. What draws you to these types of games where it's just the players do their thing?
It just depends on the game itself. It's fun to get out there and I love gathering in MMOs. I always have. I don't know what the deal with that is. I don't know why my brain releases the endorphins it does whenever I gather in MMOs, but it just does. So I like to get out there and gather and collect and make my way through the world.
Q, though, we have seen the so-and-so studio founded by so-and-so vets not pan out as much as you might think it would with that type of experience. They are off the ground with a few million in funding. This doesn't seem to be an overly ambitious reach. They're not trying to create the next WoW or Final Fantasy XIV out of the gate on $2 million or anything like this. So maybe, again, you're talking about a pretty niche audience, the people that like these types of persistent, you make the world things. It's a smaller audience than just the MMO audience in general. Do you think they have a shot here?
Like you said, it is pretty niche, but I feel like the one thing that they do have going for them, based on kind of the description of the game, it being single server, persistent, and all of that, is that the creative director comes from a company that's pretty much all they've ever done.
Yeah, with Eve, yeah,
is that thing, and like the game has been around a really long ass time now. It's turning 20. And yes, it's had its ups and downs, but most of Eve's ups and downs, right, came when they tried to venture into anything else but Eve.
Yeah, Dust 514 or World of Darkness. It's like
This
anytime they got distracted by something, yeah.
Right, because that I think that's the one thing about this kind of world is you really need to focus in order to make it something that players can live in and work in and build in and do all of that stuff. And maybe having come from, that like having that kind of experience on will help create, help them be able to create something. The Obviously all I'm seeing here is the image. It's not something that interests me at all, just looking at the image because I don't want to be in that place. It's
No cold wastelands for Q. No cold
I
wastelands
mean,
for Q.
I spend a lot of time just chilling in Coerthus or Garlemald. But like I'll just go there and sit. But I don't know, there's just something about this that is unattractive to me. Maybe it's not emo enough. Maybe that's what it is.
Spring 2023, we should hear some more about this one. Now, we also got new information about ArcheAge 2 coming out of XL Games and Cacao Games, including a new little trailer, which I'm playing for you here. Credit to Gamatsu for translations. This video actually starts with a trailer and then has a little bit of an interview with executive producer Jake Song. You can check out this video on MMOBomb.com. We've got articles for every single thing we're covering right on the site, and hey, that pays the bills, so it's a win-win. Go hit up MMOBomb.com and leave your reviews on all kinds of different games on our game pages. So while the trailer plays here, Troy, you and I previously on a show expressed that, yeah, while an ArcheAge 2 might be interesting, maybe they learn from some missteps with the original ArcheAge, we also kind of came down to the fact that because ArcheAge continues to make money to this day, on that side of things, they are unlikely to learn lessons because it just made the money. Here's a couple of things that Jake Song talks about. They asked, what are some important features are you focusing on? And he said, primary focus is action-packed combat, as well as production for an immersive storyline. We're targeting AAA tier visuals using Unreal Engine 5, and intend to offer non-linear progression-based seamless open-world experiences. Jake Song also confirmed here that it's multi-platform PC and consoles. Did not say specifically what consoles, did not indicate a release window, let alone a release date, but did confirm multi-platform PC and consoles. I like the idea of non-linear progression. The video looks nice in Unreal 5, but of course it's a rendered video, and they are going to be changing some things, which we'll get to in a second here, but what's your gut reaction to the trailer?
We're gonna have to play it. Like no matter what comes out between now and then, it's an Unreal 5 MMO. You've got to jump in and experience. You're gonna want to see it. You're gonna want to play it. I want to jump in and play it, regardless of how good or bad it is, just because it's an Unreal 5 MMO, and I can't wait to just see the engine and working with an MMO like that.
What lessons? They had lessons to learn from? They did. Yeah, Old Glory. They had a lot to learn from. In fact, one of them feels like, at least based on this answer, I feel like they're doomed to repeat because they did ask Q, do you have any game content that you would like to introduce? And Jake Song says, hey, in ArcheAge, trade runs were enjoyed by many players, but that system had flaws. In ArcheAge 2, we intend to enhance the trade system so players are able to do trade runs alone, in teams or raids. So that's a good thing. But then he goes on and says, another popular feature in the original ArcheAge was the housing feature. We plan on improving it by adding more customizations, allowing players to live in towns with their friends, and even creating their own towns with guild members, which is very, very cool. But he made no mention of like redoing the land grab issue that has just plagued ArcheAge since launch and never really got better.
The labor system that has a I don't know if you want to call it an exploit or a soft exploit, but anyway, you can work around it if you're dedicated enough.
Yep. I mean, I have always liked their housing, but Q, how many articles have we written on, bots land grabbing the shit out of fresh start servers and
That would require me actually remembering articles that I've written.
Any changes to the lore or story? ArcheAge 2 shares the same lore as ArcheAge 1. However, the story progression's not the same. ArcheAge 1 is centered around a narrative storyline. ArcheAge 2 will focus more on personal adventures and personal stories. Has a similar timeline to ArcheAge 1. It'll portray a period where Aurora was first discovered and people are starting to settle there. Will involve discovering and solving mysteries of an ancient civilization that have been forgotten for thousands of years, leaving it to blend with the natural environment. Troy, I kind of read that as peeling away from a main narrative and kind of embracing what, ArcheAge is kind of known for, generally being a more sandboxy MMORPG than others on the market. I kind of read this question as, you know what, let's fully embrace that side and scale down to smaller personal stories of just doing your thing in this world, which I know is a lot of what the original ArcheAge audience was looking for at the time.
Yeah, they were looking for that. They were just looking for the next MMO. But at the end of the day, I think the ones that stay are the one that get into the sort of the sand park elements of it. And you've still got a little bit of theme park, but you've got all that sandbox and like the trade runs and stuff like that. That's the stuff that people talk about. That's the stuff that appeals to someone like me. When you see stuff like that, I'm like, man, that game could be so good if it wasn't for other issues, monetization issues, land
If
grab
it wasn't
issues.
for everything else.
It was for everything else. The sandboxy elements of that game could be really good.
If this game didn't suck, it'd be pretty good. If this game wasn't terrible, I'd kind of like it.
Unfortunately, the things that make it unappealing are the stuff that we're not sure that they're going to learn their lessons on, or if they even think they have lessons to learn.
Yep. As Chirac says in chat, dollars, dollars, dollars. Dollars, dollars, dollars. That's my biggest concern because they don't really have an impetus to learn lessons on that front. They might not screw around with founders packs and stuff like that, but I think some of that was issues between Exile and Tryon, so hopefully they won't have that stuff happening these days with Kakao Games taking that aspect of things, but there are monetization concerns to this day in ArcheAge. Tencent now gives us more MMO news. They are making an MMORPG in the Honor of Kings world. Now, Honor of Kings or Arena of Valor, whatever you want to call it, is their, whether you like it or not, wildly successful MOBA, particularly on the mobile front. Like, it's absolutely way too many downloads. So they're now making an MMO in that world. We've got some of the early footage here, kind of like a mechy looking thing. I kind of dig this. Again, we don't know a lot. We don't know a lot about it. They revealed it back in 2021, so here's just like a little, yep, we're still working on it, so we get a little bit of gameplay courtesy of MMO culture. And Q, when you wrote this up, you were like, hey, I kind of like the way this looks. I don't know if I would like this game, but there's some stuff in this trailer that I kind of dig.
Basically, what I said is that it's pretty. It's a very pretty looking game.
Well, you liked like the air grappling mechanic too.
Well, the air grappling mechanic, when I was watching that, I was just like, wait a minute, I've seen that before. Because it's used in Chimera Land. You can get into space using it. Like you can grapple your way to the sun if you really want to try.
What are you grappling onto to get to the sun?
The sky.
Air, literally
the sky.
The air.
Yeah.
Justin did it. He grappled his way to the sun and then burnt and fell
and then
back.
Just like Icarus.
he grappled his way to Icarusness, yes.
Sometimes you fly too high, Justin.
But I mean, it looks really pretty, and it says it's gameplay, but there's no HUD, right? There's like nothing for you to look at to be like, okay, so how is this actually functioning? It's just like, it could pretty much, be a cinematic instead of gameplay just looking at it. But it is very pretty.
We don't know a lot about this one, Troy, but, hey, I'm always a fan of new MMOs. Like, I'll give them a whirl. No matter what, I'll give them a whirl. But, more often than not, they screwed up with the monetization. This is coming right out of Tencent. Generally, we see more of Tencent buying something that already exists or funding companies that they purchased into new projects, and those companies kind of already have their track record. And say what you will about Tencent, for the most part, they seem to leave those companies alone to do their thing. This is kind of a chance for us to see exactly what they would do on their own MMO, but we don't know. Got a while.
They can't all be winners, but at least we're getting new MMOs.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and ones that don't look like, free-to-play schlock, right? Like they just threw this together to get a free-to-play game out there because they're selling right now. These genuinely look like hefty investments at minimum. And then one that made a hefty investment that just didn't pay off before we part ways from our new MMOs stuff. Crowfall is being taken offline, in fact, in 4 days. The devs are, quote, going to be investing in and rethinking every part of the game, including core technology, tools, design, art, gameplay. Yeah, so as if there wasn't like enough weird and just stuff going on with Crowfall from the time it was funded all the way till now. Now the entire game is going dark while they map out the future of the game. Artcraft said that they will share the plan with the community as it shapes up. I don't know, but if you ask me to bet right now, Troy, I'd be like, yeah, you ain't getting that update. Like, just that's. I don't think they're going to be releasing a road. I would be stunned if in the future they were like, okay, we've rethought things, we've secured funding, here's the plan. But when you start talking about a game that's already had the rocks and slips that Crowfall has had, taking it offline so you can rethink core items like design and systems, I think you're just generally in trouble at that point, and you aren't coming back. I'm all for a rebound success story. I don't think this is going to be it if I had to bet money right now.
Yeah, when you're talking core development issues, and basically the core ideas of your game failed, then you're talking about you're trying to hold on to what you had, but you're trying to rebuild something new all at the same time. That generally doesn't work out for most folks. And like you, I would be surprised to see this one reemerge. I would be interested to see it reemerge. It'd be good for the genre maybe to see one be able to make a comeback. But at the end of the day, I don't know that when you're redesigning from the ground up, but obviously going to be trying to hang on to assets and things that you've already developed. I don't know that that's going to work out so great. Look at the bumpy road that New World had kind of doing that. They started out as a completely different game than what they exist now, and they're going strong now. But man, if it wasn't an Amazon game, I don't know how long that game would have made it.
According to Eurogamer that did have a chance to sit down and talk to Monumental, the company behind the game, they kind of said, what's going on? And they said, hey, there's no word on how long any of this is going to take. Nothing is off the table as far as what might change. And Eurogamer says that when it comes back, the team suggested Crowfall could return looking quite different indeed. That is, if it returns. Crowfall struggled since launch, and it was sold to Monumental late last year in 2021. Partly because of that, it needed significant changes. So, yeah. I think it's just gone, right?
Yeah, I don't. So, like Varen said, XIV did it, but there's a big difference between XIV and this. One
Namely,
being
Square
years
Enix.
and years and years of IP behind it.
And money. Square Enix,
Yeah.
money.
Right? It wasn't shuffled from one company to another or any of that jazz. Like, I don't know. The way they're talking about it, it almost sounds like they're just gonna shut it down and come back with a completely different game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Be like,
Like nothing,
here's
literally nothing is off the table. Okay. How about
right.
just close it and start over? Like if you are rethinking things to the extent you say you are and nothing's
Just
off the table, start over. Like start
I think it
over.
would be if that's the case, it would actually be easier to start over than to try to rebuild whatever if they really just don't have plans to
Stop
necessarily.
making hardcore PvP MMOs. They're too niche and nobody plays them.
I like that song. Did you write that?
I did.
Old Glory says, let's make bets when it comes back. NFT game.
There you go.
Ugh.
Lort.
Grr. Yeah, my bet is Crowfall's done. Crowfall's done. That's just my bet. I don't have any inside knowledge or anything. And if I get any, I'll post it on MMOBomb. Hey Troy, you did we actually put up a bunch of first looks last week and the week before. There's like 4 or 5, something like that, new ones up. Anthony did a couple. Go ahead and put them up. We still got a couple more cooking. Troy, I know you want to do Darktide whenever you get around to getting it. We're not allowed to put a Darktide first look up until November 30th, so that one's still going to be a little bit away. We're free to stream it and stuff like that, but we're not allowed to give review type scores or type thoughts until full launch on the 30th. So that'll be coming. We have Ethos on Free to Play Weekly. He's checking out the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live platform that is now in beta to replace its 2011 online trading card game version. So there's a bunch in the works. Anthony put up a couple of this past week for King's Fall and a few other games. Go check them out. But Troy, yours was sandboxy, in space. It has Noob Fridge written all over it. Dual Universe. What'd you think?
I thought that it was a lot better than the last sandbox MMO I took a look at. The last one, Fractured Online, it was very empty. There wasn't actually a lot of things to go on. There weren't nice. I talk about this all the time. Planting little seeds of things for people to do and grow, and really get into. This one has a lot going on. It was enough that I don't think I covered everything in the first look. There's so many different skill trees and talent points and mining and building and going to space and transferring goods, shipping goods. And then there's the VR challenges where you can just play around and practice for bonuses. There was just a lot going on.
Don't buy
in this
anything
game.
in the VR shops.
Don't buy anything in the VR shop. You don't take that back with you.
You don't take it back with you, but you lose your money. Don't buy anything in the VR shops.
But yeah, I thought it was a sandbox that had lots of those little seeds planted, things to get into. It's definitely going to be a time sink, like in a good way, time sink. If you're looking for something that you're gonna want to invest time into and build up towards a goal, this is a game that has that to offer, and more so than what I thought I was getting into initially. With all the skill trees and stuff and the way you can improve your character. And the initial tutorial you get into is quite short and just kind of sets you up going. But they have ways integrated into the game that gives you ideas of what to do next. You just go to your little computer inside your base that I talk about in the first look. And it's like, hey, now you need to get into this. Now you need to get into your skill trees. Now you need to get into, this is how you reset your mining machine. And then you can go mining in different areas. So it's got lots of seeds of things to do in the game that you can get into.
I will say, and Jason already kind of pointing it out in chat, is this a DOS game? A Windows XP maybe?
It's not pretty.
It's not a pretty game.
No.
And they're still working on development, but they would need an overhaul at this point to make it substantially better.
And I mentioned that in my first look too. I was like, there's not a lot to look at.
some and Shirak saying it too. There's some of the tech in the game, because I even jumped into this one a little bit when we first got our keys. Full disclosure, Dual Universe sent over for Troy and I, because this is sub-based, which we'll talk about in a second. They did send over, I think it was 6 months or a year of a sub, something like that for both Troy and I. And I started to kind of get interested in some of the systems. The graphics just weren't for me. I'm not normally a graphics whore, but I was like, I'm going to be staring at this for a long time if I invest my time playing this type of thing. I did like some of the ships, some of the equipment, those things look great. The environment looks terrible. Like, I hated the environment, but I did like looking at like the different platforms you can start with, or the different structures you can start with, and some of the tech that you build out. Like, that type of stuff I thought looked cool and was creatively designed. The world itself bored me. But this is one of those like very EVE online games, Q, where you want to go and be a weed farmer. Go be a weed farmer and find your niche in the world. You want to go specialize in this? Go do. We don't care. Here's the world. Here's some stuff. Go do it. So it does fall very much in that vein.
Yeah, I don't know. I started watching it and I was just kind of like, I mean, this is, other than Eve, I'm not really a big sandbox fan anyway, right? And I liked Eve because it was in space.
You can go to space. You can go to space here.
Yeah, but I mean, it was.
You got to earn it, though, baby. You got to earn it.
It was.
Yeah.
But like, if you're looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I don't like the HUD. I don't like the way the things look. I don't like. There's nothing about this that screams, I'm gonna sit here and play this for more than like 2 minutes.
The terraforming takes getting used to too. So does flying.
Yes, flying. Oh my God, flying in this game. I can't tell you how many ships I've landed upside down.
Honestly,
that's how I started the video.
I mean, the 700-pound gorilla in the room is that it's sub-based. There's no box fee, but it's sub-based. Now, on the other side of that is they do have like a free trial separate server. So you can go check that out. Like, is that on Steam? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's on Steam.
There's like it's a totally separate server. It's limited as far as time and progression that you can do in there. So that's fine. I like that they put that there. But yeah, no box fee, and the game itself is a monthly sub-based. And honestly, you would have to like really be into this particular style of game and this game in particular for me to say that sub's worth it for you. In my estimation, that audience would have been far too small for me to even consider a sub. I probably would have slapped a box fee on it instead. I honestly think that sub's not going to last all that long. I don't think that's going to last.
I would be shocked if they continue sub base for an extended period of time. I think that was the wrong choice for that game.
Agree.
You trying to build a parking lot there? Like, is that what's going on?
We're trying to figure out how the hell the thing works.
Troy doesn't know how to work the terraformer. It is weird because there's like different levels that you can dig. It's not just like Minecraft, go click and this block comes out. Like, you can literally shape the land, which is kind of neat. Like I said, some of the systems and some of the tech are cool. It just doesn't appeal to me personally as a game, but I could see a certain audience like absolutely being consumed by this type of game. My thing is that audience is probably pretty small, though. Then there's Darktide. Again, we don't have the first look up. We cannot put anything like that up until it launches on November 30th. So hang around our streams. I'm going to be streaming it today after the show here. Of course, we're doing it live, twitch.tv/MMOBomb. And we do it every Friday, except for next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy your day after Thanksgiving and your Thanksgiving holiday with everybody. We've already given opinions on Darktide. So, Troy, I just really want to get your feedback on the way they're doing things here, because I think it's really clever for this game type. I don't know if it would work for a full-blown MMORPG, but the way they're doing their kind of right now, their pre-order beta is going on, and that started yesterday. So if you pre-ordered the game, it comes out the 30th, but you can already jump in and play. What they're doing is they're like every 4 or 5 days, every like weekish, something like that, they're dropping more and more in for you to do. So like right now when we stream, we'll be able to see like 4 different planets, 4 different missions, stuff like that, and get started. All of your progression will carry over unless there's some catastrophic disaster that requires them to roll things back. But then 4 or 5 days from now or whatever, they put more content in there. 4 or 5 days, they put more, all the way up until launch when the entire game is now available for everybody. Now, the reason they're doing this is obviously, one, they said, hey, as a thank you to the fan base that pre-ordered. But two, they're hoping, and I hope they're right, Troy, they're hoping that these kind of segmented add-ons will give them 4 or 5 days each time to work through any common launch issues that you have with games in a smaller environment, and then tack on more, go through the same process, tack on more, so that when they get to launch date on the 30th, not saying, and they aren't saying that they won't have any problems at all, but a lot of the more common launch problems should have already been worked out. I like the approach. I want to see the payoff at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it won't show until we actually launch and we see what we've got when all the masses and masses get in. I've got a buddy who has been playing already, and he's had a couple of issues here and there already. But I like to see them sort of combining the early access with the reward for pre-ordering the game. Even though you shouldn't pre-order games, I pre-ordered the game though. Just go ahead and smack me on the wrist now. But I knew I was going to play it. There was no doubt in my mind I was playing this game. Issues aside or not, whether it had issues or not, I was playing this game. But it's good to see that with an actual, almost treating it like an actual beta. Oh my goodness, what is that? Like, sorting out issues, doing it at a reasonable pace. That way you can actually fix things along the way.
We shall see. We're going to stream it after the show today. Let's finish up with a few little bits and bobs, and then we'll do the weekly bombs and call it a day. Naughty Dog, yes, that Naughty Dog, that company, they have hired the former Fortnite Battle Pass team for their, rep for their Last of Us multiplayer, possibly free-to-play thing. Anders Howard, who is Fortnite's former Battle Pass designer, has been picked up by Naughty Dog, presumably to create monetization ahead of The Last of Us multiplayer. He announced the move on Twitter. There's no confirmation that that's what he's working on, but yeah, I mean, that's the dude works Battle Pass monetization, and his official title at Naughty Dog is Principal Monetization Designer. And really, as far as we know, the only thing they have in the pipeline for monetization needs would be The Last of Us multiplayer. I think you're muted, Q.
It's one of those it's speculative things, right? Like they could be doing something else. It all seems to lead that way, but and he could just be I don't know, advising them on monetization in general for any of their games, I suppose. Whatever they might have planned in the future or some stuff like that. But yeah, it seems pretty likely that they're going to try. Battle Pass seems weird though for The Last of Us, doesn't it?
I don't know. I don't know weird anymore. Takal's right. What a world we live in where that's even a job title. Like Principal Monetization Designer. Speaking of money, Blizzard and NetEase did not see eye to eye. We had reported on this previously when Blizzard released their previous financials, and in those statements kind of indicated that there were issues with the licensing contract negotiations going on with NetEase. Remember, NetEase publishes a lot of things in China for Blizzard, World of Warcraft, stuff like that. They actually signed with NetEase back in 2004 and had, was it 2009? I don't remember, one of the two. I think it was 2004. And renewed that contract for those publishing deals a couple of times. The problems indicated in their financial statement a month or so ago now seem to have coalesced into the contract not being renewed, which means basically everything besides Diablo Immortal, which is under a totally different contract because it was actually developed with NetEase, is going to have to leave China. They can't do it anymore. There are some exceptions, things like Call of Duty, which are actually published by Tencent. So not everything, but World of Warcraft, Overwatch, like the key stuff, the key Blizzard titles, they're gone. They're leaving, with the exception of Diablo Immortal, effective January, like middle of January next year. What I think is going to happen here is that if you look at it globally, as far as Activision Blizzard as a whole, while this is a pretty sizable income on Blizzard's side by itself, it isn't when you look at the Activision Blizzard portfolio as a whole. They publicly say it's about 3% of Activision Blizzard's total revenue. honestly, Q, I think they're going to turn around and just push these into an agreement with Tencent. They probably feel they can get more money based on what Tencent's may be doing with their Call of Duty franchises. And yeah, interestingly though, NetEase wasn't actually aware that Blizzard was going to announce it publicly until they saw it announced publicly. Like, they were aware contract negotiations were breaking down and likely not going to be fulfilled, but they didn't know it was being announced publicly. And then NetEase president Simon Zhu, on their LinkedIn profile, spilled some interesting tea without putting any names out there, saying, one day, when what has happened behind the scenes could be told, developers and gamers will have a whole new level of understanding of how much damage a jerk can make. Speculation across the internet saying that jerk is probably Bobby Kotick.
Bobby Kotick.
So the funny thing about this is, right, somebody posted a YouTube video about this in my free company thing, and I just started laughing at it because it was like, Blizzard gets kicked out of China, and I was like, they didn't get kicked out.
Yeah, I think that was
like,
Ginger Prime, wasn't it? I saw it too, and I like kind of messaged. I was like, that title's that's
I was
a
like,
bad
they
one.
didn't get kicked out. I was like, they chose to leave, and so I'm sitting here explaining to the person who posted it, and I was like, but here's the thing: it's only like 3% of Activision Blizzard's entire profits. These particular games, the one game they made specifically for China is still fine. And I was like, and all their other games are under 10 cent, which basically what you said, I was like, which probably, leaves open the idea of them just putting all their other games under 10 cent.
Yeah, and obviously I thought what was interesting, Scott Hartzman, if you remember him from Tryon Worlds, he put up this huge Twitter thread about, well, why didn't you just get a new publisher? And he was like, there's a lot that goes into that, and he like breaks down a lot. It was an interesting thread if you're into that kind of stuff, which I am, so I read the whole thing. But a lot of what he said there, you maybe don't have to do because you already know what the relationship with Tencent is like. You already know what they can deliver, what they can bring to the table as far as a publisher. And if you think back, if you're old like I am, Blizz already played this game going to NetEase back in 2004 when they basically did the same thing with the 9 at the time, Troy, where they let the contract expire and opted not to renew it and took it to NetEase. So I just feel like that's the way it's probably going to go. Does that mean, just like when they went from the 9 to NetEase, is there going to be an outage period where you can't play WoW as a Chinese player? Probably, yeah. That's probably going to be the case. What will be the terms if they do end up moving it to Tencent as far as getting your accounts back and things like that? I don't know, but I feel like that's where it's going to go. I can't see Activision Blizzard leaving things like WoW and Overwatch just out of the Chinese market entirely.
Yeah, they're not going to. They don't do something like this accidentally. This doesn't just happen where they're just letting a contract expire. They have a plan in place, whether it be Tencent or something else. There is a plan in place. They know where they're going with these games, and these games will be back in China as soon as possible.
What else will be back in China is Riot's lawsuit against Moonton. U.S. judge saying, hey, this is right. They were suing Moonton over League of Legends copyright infringement, saying that there's just like a lot of shit stolen straight from their games and everything. And yeah, a judge in the United States threw this back and said, you got to go sue them in China because, by the way, Tencent is suing them in China, but Tencent is not part of the lawsuit here in the United States. The U.S. court saying that's going to be unfair to allow Riot and Tencent to bring a two-front war against Moonton unless and until Tencent decides to show up on both battlefields. So take it to China, which is their legal system. Is absolutely well known for its ethical and fair treatment of copyright infringement suits. Absolutely.
The land of taking whatever you want.
Let's go do the weekly pops. Weekly bomb time. A dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or just life in general. I'm going to give an A bomb to life in general. Just seems like lately anything nostalgic for me is just like and cool. It's just absolutely being freaking ruined. Like every company that's like, let's bring this show back. It's awful. Let's make a game out of this franchise that I haven't seen in 15 years. It's terrible, and it's just aggressively monetized because they want my wallet for nostalgia's sake, and I'm sick of it. So general A-bomb to that stuff. Like, just leave my childhood alone at this point. Just leave it alone and create new shit for me, please. Go ahead,
What
Troy.
newest thing are you upset about, though?
Oh, just a lot. It's a general thing. There wasn't anything specific that threw me over the edge. I mean, He-Man was pretty bad, but if I got to pick one recently, the He-Man Masters of the Universe thing didn't do it for me.
He-Man was so bad, still mad about it.
I'm still mad about it. Yeah, He-Man. Yeah. Go ahead, Troy. What do you got?
Just give a dub bomb to so many MMOs being developed again. It's good to see a plethora of games out there. They're not all for me, but they're not supposed to be. There needs to be a little something for everybody out there. So I'm just glad to see several ones being developed again that, like we said earlier, seem to have a decent investment behind them.
Go ahead, Q.
I'm actually going to give a bomb to the creators of Staged for doing what they've done every time with the series and just kind of telling us a week before that, hey, there's a new season of this and throwing it out for us to have. So
no hype train required. Chat.
No, they know we're there.
Ninja Panda is saying A-bomb to my ISP for being crap and being down for a full day, leaving me bored as hell. Jason Winter saying bomb to the new Quantum Leap. Is that any good? Like, I saw commercials for it, and I was like, man, this looks awful. But maybe it's good. I don't know. I was never a huge fan of the original Quantum Leap, so that like
I grew up watching
Loved
that with
the
my
original.
dad.
Oh,
Quantum
I've watched it before. Yeah, absolutely. But it wasn't like, oh, that's on. Yeah. Old Glory saying A-bomb to Troy's electricity. To Cal saying bomb to Kevin Conroy. Salute to the best Batman to ever do it. Yes, absolutely sad.
Darn right.
Yeah, for Kevin's passing. That is Batman for me. That is absolutely Batman. But Jason Winter likes Quantum Leap, but also acknowledges that his judgment probably can't be trusted. Okay. Pie Maker says, in response to Corey V's comment from the last episode, this may be an extreme comparison, but what Corey was saying is not dissimilar to telling an alcoholic to stop drinking alcohol while being surrounded by alcohol. It's almost as if game companies design their games to socially and psychologically pressure players into spending money. They do. And some people would rather quit than stay within that environment and put up with the temptation. Whether because they don't have the budget or desire to spend their time, money, or energy, the key word is some. I still play Overwatch daily because I enjoy the gameplay. If you want and can afford to continue playing with or without spending money, then more power to you. But that doesn't give you the right to disparage those who have made different choices. Everyone has their own circumstances. Oh, and Overwatch isn't an arena shooter. Side note for Mike, the weapon charms are just stabbed into characters' wrists. It's quite lazily done, unfortunately. That was me asking Overwatch 2 fans, like, what happens with a weapons charm for a character that like doesn't carry a gun? I didn't know. And I was like, where the hell is it? Apparently, it's just stabbed into their wrists. We did, by the way, put up an article this morning on Overwatch 2 redesigning some of their battle pass and progression systems. They didn't give a ton of specifics, but we have a few on the site, and it's going to happen over Season 2 and 3. Season 2, of course, launching December 6th. So they heard you, which, of course, is something they say in the statement. Go ahead, Q.
Jack Atlas. The hotel used for Dragon Con was also used in Disney Marvel's Loki, the lobby statue elevator, so it's super famous. Although the carpet changed well before that. As video games like COD and such get more realistic looking real life places and locations like a hotel it should not be featured in a game featuring warlike scenarios, because all it takes is some talented a-hole to edit some crazy realistic massacre and scare people or use it for propaganda. Some people already get confused with Microsoft's Air Simulator.
Yes, they do.
I think some games purposely choose to have teams work with content that only 5 to 10% of the population of the player base play and release it in increments at a time so they don't pull all their put all their eggs in one basket. Grinding Gear Games hyped up Lake of Calandra, and it basically bombed the first month with really low engagement and popular streamers playing other games with their friends and mess up the marketplace. I'm no dev or team leader, though.
But it sounds like you think like one. It sounds like you're thinking like one. Question of the week last week: should MMORPG developers spend time creating content that they already know a small fraction of the player base will actually do it, i.e., extreme difficulty stuff, endgame stuff that 1%, 2%, 3% of your player base does type things? Jay Blearg says about the Path of Exile Ruthless mode, it's not about business. The 1 or 2 devs that have been doing it in their free time, confirming what we thought last week or last show, are the founders of Grinding Gear Games. It's the game they want to play. It's been more than a year that Chris Wilson, presumably, he says Chris, I'm assuming Chris Wilson, has been talking about it. This also solves a problem. Most people don't want the game to be harder or slower, so every time Grinding Gear Games deals with power creep or nerf anything, they accuse Chris of being out of touch, and the shitstorm happens. Now Chris can have the game he wants, and Path of Exile easy mode people can't use that particular argument. As a longtime player, I'm looking forward to the hard mode. Thank you. Thank you for the insight there as a PoE veteran. Much appreciated. Go ahead, Q.
Thevrisk. If it's something I like, then yes. If it's something I don't care about, then no.
And you know what? That's probably fair. That's probably fair. Go ahead, Troy.
Box says, I felt like more variety and content is always better, at least if it's something in the game itself, and not separate or a whole new game completely to cash in on a flavor of the month deal. Looking at you, Battle Right. In all seriousness, though, an on and off again player of WoW, and I haven't done hardcore content in many years now, but I have plenty of friends who do it, including Mythic and Mythic Plus. Just because content isn't made for me in particular doesn't mean it can't exist either.
Yeah, that's kind of the side of the fence I fall in. But I also recognize that I do tend to do like some of that more difficult high Mythic Plus, Savage, Extremes, whatever content. Not all of it. I'm not like hardcore progression, but I do partake in it. So
okay, but I don't do that content, and I am perfectly happy for my friends who enjoy that content to have it. So.
Well, I'm not. Your friends suck. No, I don't know. No, it's just fine. I agree with you. Question of the week this week. We talked about a lot of MMORPGs in development, or at least rumored to be in development as well. So what IP do you want made into the next big MMORPG? Don't pick companies, don't pick payment models, like don't tear it apart on why it would fail or who should make it so it succeeds. I just want to know what IP needs to be a full-blown AAA MMORPG right now and why. Let us know in the comments. Also, while you're down there, give us your weekly bombs. Da bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or just life in general. Until next time, Troy, which again, no show next week. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back the following week. That is December 2nd, twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Until then, Troy, where can everybody find you?
I guess up until I get my OnlyFans up and running, you can follow me on Twitter until it falls apart.
Q.
Yeah, on Twitter at Quinlan, but I mean, it's not like I actually do anything there, so...
Mike Byrne, you can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb, so you'll get every tweet, maybe, every time we post an article, giveaway, interview, first look video, podcast, and more. Until next time, happy holidays. We'll see you on the server.